सो विद रिगार्ड टू न्यूक्लियर फिज़िक्स आपके पास तकरीबन हर ही न्यूक्लियर फिज़िक्स के सवाल में हाफ लाइफ का कोई ना कोई छोटा सा पार्ट आता ही है, both in O levels as well as IGCSE physics. Right now we'll be doing an example which is going to be very comprehensive. All the possible questions you could possibly think of, or for that matter the examiner could think of, वो सारे इस एक example में included हैं. So let's go ahead and start with this example. So the question says that a sample of a radioactive isotope contains this many nuclei, और further आपको इस सवाल में इसका half life दिया गया है as 5 minutes. Now we'll be doing a couple of parts which will cover all the different types of questions which can be asked. So find in the first part the number of nuclei remaining after 15 minutes. If I have to give you guys one advice about all of radioactivity and all of half-life के questions, it would be this, which is to think about in every problem, to think about this in terms of the number of half-lives. कितनी half-lives गुजरी हैं उसके बारे में आपने सोचना है. बिकॉज जब आप हाफ लाइफ करने बैठे हैं, सवाल करने बैठे हैं, यू नो दिस आइडिया कि रेडियो एक्टिव डिके इज़ नॉट ए लिनियर प्रोसेस. ठीक है, शुरू में रेडियो एक्टिव डिके तेज़ होता है, उसके बाद ये स्लो होता जाता है जैसे कि नंबर ऑफ न्यूक्लियाई कम होते रहते हैं. सो हाउ यू शुड थिंक अबाउट दिस इज ऑलवेज इन टर्म्स ऑफ द नंबर ऑफ हाफ लाइफ्स. नाउ व्हेन आई स्टार्ट डूइंग दिस क्वेश्चन आई नो दैट वैसे हाफ लाइफ इज़ 5 minutes, दिस इज़ 15 minutes, सो आई नो 15/5 basically 3 half-lives have elapsed. And once I have figured out the number of half-lives, then I need to basically make a arrow diagram is what I call it, to see कि कितने nuclei रह गए हैं at the end of each stage. याद रखें कि O levels में जब भी आपके पास सवाल आएगा it's always going to be a multiple of the number of half-lives. कभी ऐसा नहीं आएगा कि आपको वो 12 मिनट दे दे, which is not an integer multiple of 5. So it's always going to be a multiple of the half-lives. So 120,000, the number of arrows is basically the number of half-lives. So एक half-life बाद this would become 60,000. Another half-life बाद this would become 30,000. And after another half-life, so 3 arrows, so 3 half-lives, this would become 15,000. So in this case, what is the number of nuclei which remain? That's this value, which is 15,000. So that's the answer to the first part. Let's do another one. So the next question asks the number of nuclei that have decayed in 20 minutes. So abhi upar jo maine working ki hai, this was for 15 minutes, and now I just need to do it for 20 minutes. So very obviously I can see again कि अगर मेरे पास each half-life is 5 minutes, so this is going to be 4 half-lives. 3 half-lives के हिसाब से मैंने already working की हुई है यहाँ पे. So 4 half-lives means कि just this number is going to again get halved. So 15,000 से लेके this would become half of that, which would be 7,500. लेकिन इसके अलावा अगर आप सवाल गौर से पढ़ें, so there is a distinct difference between what this part asks and what this part asks. This one asks for the number of nuclei remaining, whereas this one asks for the number of nuclei that have decayed. अब 7,500 nuclei are what remain at the end of 20 minutes. How much did we start with? That was 120,000. This is what remains. So simply by subtracting, I can get कि कितने nuclei have decayed. So 120,000 minus 7,500 is going to be my answer. So in this case, it's going to be 112,500 nuclei that have decayed. Let's go on to another part. The next part asks the time after which the number of nuclei becomes 1875. So again, till 4 half-lives हमें पता है कि this becomes 7,500. So let's not do all that working all over again. So 4 half-lives makes it 7,500. And now what we need to do is we have to keep going until we hit this number 1875. So 7500, if we have that, that's 3750. All right, so this is already done, just so we avoid confusion. And 3750 ka phir se if we do the half, that's 1875. So 4 half-lives from before, 5th and the 6th. So this is 6 half-lives. So 6 half-lives. Again, we know each half-life was 5 minutes. So 6 times 5 gives us 30 minutes. The last type of question. The next question is this: the time after which the number of nuclei becomes 1/32 of its initial value. अब वैसे तो ये सवाल हम लोग कर सकते हैं using exactly the values of the initial number of nuclei that we have. But because you can have a question like this in your exam where you would not have the number of nuclei, this is why I want to do this symbolically without using the initial number of nuclei. So let's say initial number of nuclei is n. One half-life, when it passes, this would become half of that, n by 2. Another half of this would become n by 4. Another half of this would become n by 8. Another half would become n by 16. And another half would become n by 32. So in this case, if I do this calculation, kitni half-lives guzri hain? Again, we start doing that again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half-lives have passed. So again, 5 half-lives. Each half-life is 5 minutes. So this gives us 25 minutes. Now you can verify for yourself कि अगर हम यही चीज़ ऐसे करते कि we would have done 1/32 of the initial value, whatever that turns out to be. And if you keep going until you hit that value, you would again get the same answer. ठीक है? But strictly speaking, you don't need to know the number of nuclei if the question is like this, a fraction of its initial value. The last part is not really even a part, but for example, let's say this was asked, and let's say we had to do this, which is to draw a graph of the number of nuclei with time, and you have to show 3 half-lives. So half-lives हमने निकाली हैं, and also above we just did a example जहाँ पे हमने 3 half-lives तक तो काम किया था. ठीक है, so let's first make the grid, and then let's go back to the working. So let's say this is the grid. On the y-axis we have number of nuclei, and on the x-axis I have time here. So initially we started out with 120,000, which became 60,000, which became 30,000, which became 15,000. So this is the initial figure after 1 half-life, after 2 half-lives, after 3 half-lives. So remember these for me: 120, 60, 30, and 15. So if I have to draw these here now, the initial one, let's say this one is 120,000. Then it becomes half of that. So visually, अगर आप इसको देखें, so half मैंने अंदाजे से, just by sight, I did this, 60,000. Half of that, 30,000. And further half of that is 15,000. So for 1 half-life, if I, first of all, I can first make the graph as well, and then I can complete the labeling. इसमें भी कोई मसला नहीं है. So I know what the graph shape is supposed to be like, approximately like this. And if I just want to make sure points lie, थोड़ा सा मैंने इसको extend कर दिया. So I know 120,000 is the initial number of nuclei. After 1 half-life, the number of atoms get halved. So 5 minute बाद, it becomes 60,000. Another 5 minutes. So on the total time axis, it's going to be 10. Let me also label here, this is in minutes. And then after another half-life, which makes the total 15, the number of nuclei halve again. So all possible types of questions related to half-life done in 10 minutes. Hope this helps.